Okay, so for this newsletter, we're going to go to a passage you may know very well. You probably heard it a billion times by now. And if you haven't heard it before, I'm excited that I'm the first person that lets you know it. But we're going to be in Matthew chapter 6, verse 25. It says, "Therefore I tell you, don't worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Isn't life more than food and the body more than clothing? Consider the birds of the sky. They don't sow or reap or gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Aren't you worth more than they? Can any of you add one moment to his lifespan by worrying? And why do you worry about clothes? Observe how the wildflowers of the field grow. They do not labor or spin thread. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was adorned like one of these. If that's how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and thrown into the furnace tomorrow, won't he do much more for you, you of little faith? So don't worry, I say, saying, what will we eat or what we will drink? What will we wear? For the Gentiles eagerly seek all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things." Sorry, I want to read it properly. And new Bibles, they stick together so much. But all these things will be provided for you. Therefore, don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So, we hear this passage a whole lot. We think about it night and day and night, about different situations and things going on in our lives. And for the most part, you think about it and you're like, yeah, of course you're not supposed to worry about what you eat and what you drink. But do we really not worry about it? And until recently, I've been asking myself this question a whole lot. Do I really have a worry-free life? Am I honestly living my life without worrying about what I'm gonna eat, what I'm gonna drink, what I'm gonna do? Where is my provision gonna come from? Because let's be honest, it's easy to get caught up in what people call the rat race, trying to focus on gaining financial gain, financial knowledge, gaining intelligence to get a better paying job. But in the end, and after you do all of that, you could end up in a tragic situation where you still have to lean on, someone else or anybody else to provide for you. So even though we try to pursue knowledge and pursue wisdom in order to gain better knowledge of our finances and do budgeting and different things like that, tragedies still happen in our lives that can render us useless when it comes in terms of making money. And remember in January in the snowstorm, this is where I thought about this passage a few days after it. So it was snowing in January. You remember that? First off, there was a lot of people that I found out did not prepare themselves for the storm, and they didn't have a lot of food to eat and things taking care of them at the time. My family actually had a lot, and we had food and had things already saved up before then, and for times like this or whatever might happen that we could eat and have. So that was the first thing that gave me some perspective about how things could be different. When I came back to Ole Miss and was talking to some of my friends and different people, they were telling me about how they did not have food to eat, or they did not have a lot of food to eat. They just had like a few different things to eat because of all the stores being closed and not being able to drive on the icy roads. And that was the first thing. I got some perspective from that, and I realized, wow, that's really sad for some people that they didn't have the provision. But because God was on our side and God was with us, we had provision during the storm times. But there's another thing that I wanted to talk about. Right now, I should have the video up, but right now you should see a video of me playing in the snow. Me and my siblings, we played in the snow during the snowstorm. First, we had to wait 2 days, of course, because the snow wasn't ready. But after the snow was prepared, we were able to roll it up, make a few big rolling balls, big snowballs and everything. I horsed around in the snow, flipped and flopped around a little bit, and then we went inside the house. The very next day, there were birds, sparrows, eating in the spots, in the paths that we had made through the snow. And I thought about it, and this is the verse that came into mind. Don't worry. Do the birds worry about what they eat and what they have? They do not. And that verse came to mind when I saw the sparrows eating whatever they were eating in the grass. As you can see in the video, whatever they were eating, whatever they were doing, I was shocked and realized the meaning of that verse, because sometimes in our inadvertent things happen for the birds. During the snowstorm, the ground was covered. They could not break through the snow and the ice to get what they wanted. But somehow, in our playing and in our just having fun outside, God made provision for the birds of the air. And sometimes we should look at our lives like Jesus said here, look at the birds of the air. Did they worry about what they have? The birds were not worried about where they were going to catch their next meal. And when it was time for them to eat, they found their ways into the pathways that we had made in the snow, playing around, able to eat in those pathways and get whatever they needed to get for the day. And I think that's what we should do. We should be able to depend on God and not be afraid that he's going to provide for us. Recently, I've gone through some struggles of provision and trusting in God for me to get the things that I need or get the places that I want to go. And honestly, sometimes it feels like I'm rushing or trying to push myself or trying to do things by myself and not trying to lean on God for help and for what I need. And in those times, I oftentimes don't get what I need or what I need provided for. And so that's what I think about every time I'm trying to get provision or something provided for me. Am I leaning on God to get this provision done, or am I leaning on my own knowledge, on everything that I do? Don't get me wrong. Jesus also says, before you build, if you're going to build a house, aren't you going to count up the cost before you start building? It's good to know what we have, but if it is in God's will to provide for us, as Jesus tells us here, it is in his will to provide for us. Let's say you wanted to eat dinner, but you didn't have enough money to eat dinner. Don't you know that God will provide food for you to eat? Don't you know that God will provide the things that you need? Jesus also says, and I believe it's Matthew 6 at the beginning, don't say long prayers. God already knows what you need. Just tell God what you need. And so what I'm trying to challenge you to do is trust in God. It's a very difficult thing if you don't have enough faith in God to just believe that you're safe through grace, that you think that your works have to save you. But it's a totally different ball game to trust God to provide for you. So what are you needing? What do you need God to provide for you right now? Is it tuition paid off? Is it, I don't know, new tires for your car that you know you can't afford to have? Is it food on the table? Is it an electricity bill that's making you struggle, or gas that you need in your car? Whatever it is, I challenge you not to try to figure it out by yourself by trying to find more time to work at your job, which is not a bad thing, or not trying to find different side hustles to do, which can all be used to the glory of God and to help better your finances. But before you do all of that, I want to challenge you to write down what you need and say a prayer to the Lord, and write down on the list everything that you need and see God provide for you. If you have faith in God, he will do what you need him to do. Just like God provided for those birds outside, they needed food to eat. And in our inadvertent childish playing in the snow, we were able to be vessels for God to provide for the sparrows. Will you allow God to provide for you? Because the sparrows, they weren't even worried. As soon as the path was open for them to eat in, they were there. It was like a whole lot of them over there just eating and enjoying. So that's how we should be. We should not be worried about what we're going to eat or what we're going to drink, how we're going to be provided for, to do the things to help us pursue God even more. We should just trust in God to provide for us. Have faith in his word and what he said he will do. So yeah, my challenge for you for this newsletter for this month, write down what God has for you. Write down the things that you need and watch God provide for you. There's many stories like that. When we first moved back to the United States, me and my family, we were robbed, and actually our PlayStation got taken, my brother's piano, different things got taken from us. And my dad sat us down and said, what are all the things that got taken? Let's write down a list and watch how God will provide for us. And once we wrote down that list, everything that we had stolen eventually was brought back to us within 6 months of that list being written. So I do know that God will provide for us. So be sure to seek God's provision, not just try to find out how you can provide for yourself. Because Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. So even in your ways of trying to find ways to provide for your family or for yourself, acknowledge God. See what God's plan is for you to work. Is it for you to work overtime at your job? Is it for you to get a better paying job? Is it for you to learn a new skill? You would never know if you don't see God to find out how he wants to provide for you. And third, and the last thing, make sure you seek God for his provision, because sometimes we don't even recognize God's provision in our lives. Some of the clothes that I wear are 5-6 years old, and you would never know that the t-shirt or the shirt or things that I'm wearing are very old, because the clothes are well kept. And I'm not taking credit for the clothes being well kept. I had no influence in whether the clothes were well kept or not, but God has kept my clothes for that long that I don't even need to go out and buy more clothes. So sometimes we're looking for provision in one area when God has already been providing for us. So first, I pray that God opens your eyes to recognize the provision that he's already been doing for you. Secondly, I pray that you will write down a list of everything that you need provided for you and bring it to God, and then let him help you direct your paths and ways to provide for yourself. And number 3, trust in his provision when you know there's something that you cannot get on your own. Trust in God and believe that he will get it for you. So yeah, this has been the newsletter for this month. You can subscribe to the Christian Boy Podcast channel. We're on podcasts. You can listen to us on Spotify, watch us on YouTube. So subscribe, like, comment. Let me know if you have any situations when God provided for you. And I pray that you're blessed from this. And let me know what you think about it. Is God providing for you, or do you feel like you have to do everything on your own? Because you don't. God does provide. All right. God bless you.